lovedreamingbeach.com.
It's super dark. I need to do another part 6, I guess.
Mofo typos. Typos, yo.
Turn that on. Oh, can you hear my heat? My radiator's like... Hello, my lovely peaches. It is literally 3:03 a.m. This is JonBenét Ramsey, my opinion, part 6. Let me turn this on. Turn it down. So, I had said I was watching the Kendall Ray, Stephanie Harlow collab on Kendall Ray's channel called Mile Higher, where they were talking about the JonBenét Ramsey case. It was a 2-year-old video, and I got real annoyed at one point. So this video is more of my thoughts and theories, but also my defense of Burke. I haven't fully watched all his interviews and everything. I watched some, and these are my theories. The fecal matter smearing issue that he had, his behavior, the SA evidence from JonBenét, the apparent bedwetting issue that she had. All of that makes me feel that both children were getting SA'd. If one child is getting SA'd regularly, they both are. Most likely. Now, I as soon as I said that, I recalled that my sister, my older sister, she's almost 3 years older than me. When I finally came out and told her about, that I had been SA'd, and I really thought that it was inevitable, like it had to have happened to her too. And she said no. She said it didn't. So I was surprised. I was extremely relieved, and I also was like, oh, that makes sense. Because, she has issues with her, she's not like she doesn't have any issues in her relationships, but she's always maintained like a steady relationship. She's been with her current person, he's her fiance, and they've been together for almost 16 years. Anyway, I'm totally getting off the track because I was supposed to be talking about Burke and JonBenét. But my assessment is that it's likely, it's possible. What I believe is much more possible is that the reason Burke acted so weird is because, number one, he was also a victim. Number two, something awful happened, and it was secretive, it was covered up, it was lied about, and it was a mystery. And he was a young. He was 9 years old. That's prepubescent. So he wasn't SAing his sister. He probably wasn't strong enough to do it. So the man on that show, I don't know if that's Kendall Ray's husband, he was making sense. When the show started and she was saying, oh, for years I thought it was Burke, I'm like, you've got 3 potential suspects, you've got a 9-year-old child, an innocent child, and then you've got 2 weird-ass, funky-ass, suspicious-ass adults. Why are you blaming the little boy? And they said, oh, because she had a piece of undigested pineapple in her stomach, and that was his favorite snack, although other people said it was also her favorite snack. And, like, what? Are you serious? You're telling me that this 9-year-old child is going to viciously, brutally M his sister because she took a piece of pineapple? And then the parent, this is the mind-boggling thing that makes literally no sense at all in any world. Like, how people can fixate on the idea that this kid did it. So you're going to tell me that 2 grown-ass adults are going to murder their daughter, their beautiful 6-year-old beauty queen pageant daughter, because their 9-year-old hit her? And even Stephanie Harlow, I was shocked by Stephanie Harlow in that video, I have to say. Disappointed by her, because first of all, she literally said, oh, I don't believe that she was SA'd that night. Like, the freaking autopsy said that she was SA'd very close to the time of her death. So, and then it also said that there was evidence of long-term, ongoing SA. So, like, denying that is despicable. And the fact, my hair looks fucking weird, I just noticed. But it is 3 o'clock in the morning, okay? So my hair gets, my hair always looks weird, but at 3 a.m. Okay, but anyway, back to the much more important thing that, like, so there's evidence that this girl is being SA'd. It's obvious what happened to her had to have been an adult. Obviously, an adult carried her body, whether they took her down alive and did what they did to her there, or they did whatever they did to her wherever they did it, and then they carried her dead body down. Like, a 9-year-old is not going to do that. So, in order for you to believe that the boy had anything to do with it, you're basically implicating the parents. So, why... Like, it just makes no sense, like the guy was saying. Why not just make up any other story? Like, say she fell and hit her head in the tub, or she fell down the steps, or whatever the hell it is. Why would they literally... And if she's not actually... Like, it just makes no sense. It just makes me so mad that people would actually, like, give weight and validity. And then Kendall was sitting there like, yeah, the more I think about it, the more that makes sense. Like, what are you talking about? The more you talk about it, the more it doesn't make sense. And the guy, I think that's her husband, is like, I'm just not following this. And Stephanie and Kendall are like, yeah, the kid must have done it. And then the parents went through the lengths of this whole thing. Like, how does it not make a lot more sense that the parents did some shady shit, and the kid was probably being abused, probably had a lot of problems, probably JonBenét was being favored, like way, I have no doubt that all of the time and attention was being paid to JonBenét, and the boy was being neglected. And, and then there was the clip when he was talking to this therapist or whatever. He didn't draw JonBenét in the family, and he even said something like, well, yeah, I got over it. I cried, but I got over it, and, moving on with life. But again, it's like, he was a special needs 9-year-old kid whose actual sister was literally murdered in his home. We have no idea what he witnessed. We have no idea what was said to him. He had serious problems that all of those problems, to me, are clear signs of abuse. And to villainize a little boy? And I don't know. It's just so insane. So this is my part 6 in defense of Burke, because I feel like he was a victim, and that, they probably told him whatever he saw or heard. Oh, and the 911 call where Patsy thought she hung up, and then she said something like, what did you do? And then you hear Burke's voice say, what did you find? And somebody's like, we're not talking to you. Somebody pointed out in the comments, she could have been talking to John, and then they're like, we're not talking to you. But then, because of that, they think he did. can't fathom how anybody with any seriousness could actually think it makes sense to blame it on a 9-year-old and then spiral into all the things that the parents would have had to done when they were obviously covering up the fact that she was being essayed. They were the ones who obviously had everything to lose. If she had been injured by their 9-year-old, why? That makes no sense that they would then her. It doesn't account for the essay. It doesn't account for anything. And they said also that they figured out it would have taken about 22 minutes to sit there and write that letter if you already knew exactly what you were going to say. And that doesn't account for the time it would have taken to think of it, to compile it. And it was on Patsy's pad, with Patsy's pen, with Patsy's paintbrush as part of the M weapon, and John's Navy experience, probably knowing how to tie garrets and knots like that, and John finding it, and Patsy being the one to write the letter, and both of them acting bizarre as hell and not shedding a single tear and not acting like parents who were terrified and then devastated, but rather acting like perpetrators who were hiding and lying and making shit up, and everything points to them. And in my opinion, everything about Burke points to him being a victim, being abused, losing his sister, having the world blame him and think he's weird, and God knows what he went through before and after and since. So I truly feel that it's the parents, and they'll never be brought to justice. I should be in bed. It's really kind of sad that I'm not. All the lights are off in the house except for these here in the bathroom. I just wanted to capture the thought that I wanted to say. That I was looking up the year that JonBenét was murdered. So JonBenét was murdered in 1996, right before 1997. December 26, 1996, so a week before the new year of 1997. The Menendez brothers was 1989. So I was just thinking about this idea of Burke as a perpetrator, not like an assayer, but that he was the catalyst, what Kendall Ray and Stephanie Harlow were saying was I don't really want to be in the bathroom, to be honest. What they were saying was that they actually think it's feasible that a 9-year-old would have done something so vicious. This is what Stephanie was saying, it was so dumb. I can't believe how somebody that I once liked so much could say something that I find so dumb and offensive. And maybe I'm the one who's dumb and offensive and I don't know enough, and that's why it's coming across that way. But she actually said maybe Burke had hit JonBenét in the head with the bat, and she was bleeding, and the parents just assumed that she was DEAD. Okay, so Stephanie was saying, well, a head wound would bleed a lot, so maybe the parents just jumped to the assumption that the girl was goner, even though she wasn't. And so in order to cover it up that the son had hit her, they decided to... the reason I'm saying this is because the autopsy revealed that she was ended by around her, not by the blunt force trauma, So the theory was that either they were trying to do it and she was, and there was, she had like marks like this that she was trying to, she was fighting back. She was fighting for her life. So they don't know if the thing happened first and then this thing and it hadn't fully happened, or if they were trying to do this and she was struggling, so then they did that, and in order to do the finish. But because of that, I'm saying, like, why would she, first of all, she's a mom, and Kendall too, although this was 2 years ago, and I think Kendall just had her baby. But, like, the idea that one child, like, I have 2 children, the idea that my older son would do something to my younger son, and he was injured. So I would just, like, it actually makes me want to throw up and cry. How disgusting a concept that is, to just casually say that. And also the fact that it discounts the essay, which she literally did. Like, I cannot believe that she said that. And I don't know why Kendall Ray was, like, co-signing that, literally denying what the autopsy said happened to that girl, so that it would make more sense to blame it on the son. Oh, the whole point that I was trying to get to was that it really started to make me think about how when the Menendez had their trials, so many people thought of them as these disgusting monsters. They literally had a Netflix show just recently called Monsters, which hopefully will actually be the catalyst to finally get them out. But so back in 1989, the common belief was that boys couldn't even be SA'd. It's not even possible. And so therefore they had to be lying. And I'm like, it was so sick what they accused the boys of, and the way that they were questioned, the way they were gaslit, the way they were further abused. They were told straight to their face, that never happened, you're lying, you made it up, and if it did happen, you liked it. Okay, so what does all that have to do with Burke? Only the fact that I thought to myself, this was 1996, and, the parents were rich, and I almost wonder, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, I wonder if it was actually the exact opposite of, the parents did all this crazy stuff to save Burke and to cover up for Burke. Like, they said, they thought one was gone, they didn't want to lose 2. Like, there's no parent in their right mind who just does that. Okay? What if actually Burke was a victim of their abuse, their neglect, their favoritism? We don't know what he went through. We don't know why he has these special needs. We don't know what they really are. All we know is that these very rich and very weird people, I was thinking, what if they allowed someone at the party that they were at do stuff to the kids or to JonBenét? Like, maybe Burke wasn't abused in that way. Maybe he wasn't SA'd. Maybe he was. I don't know. He didn't talk about it. There's lots of people who repress it. I literally repressed it for so many years. And when I finally remembered, it's been 6 years It's a very painful, slow journey. Anyway, my whole point is like vilifying a little boy. It's so insane to me, and it harked back to the Menendez brothers and that time, that frame, and even though it was 1996, almost 1997, which was like 8 years later, so maybe a little tiny bit of progression in the mind, but I mean, there are still people to this day who believe that those brothers are evil, and they don't believe their stories. And I watched the first trial recently, like last year I watched it, and I 1000% believe what they went through, and that what they did was horrible, but it's been like 30 years, so they gave their time, and they deserve to have a chance of a life now. So I don't know, I mean, who knows, maybe Burke, like, my whole thing is, even if he did do something, he wasn't the one who was doing the thing down there, and he didn't do all the other stuff. Like, blaming him just seems so weak and ill directed. And yeah, he's weird, but like, oh my God, he lost his sister in one of the most infamous unsolved cases of all time. Wouldn't you be weird? It's like so awful. All right, now I gotta get some sleep. Good night.
Mofo typos. Typos, yo.
Cat love dreaming.
Hello, my lovely
Peach.com.
peaches. Happy Saturday. It is Saturday, November 30th, 2024. I just got home a little bit ago from, my sister had basically like a flea market where she was selling her handmade jewelry. And so I was hanging out with her and my mom, and my sister-in-law was there, and my niece came, and so that was really fun. It is very cold outside, and I just got home, and my kids will be home from their dad's in about an hour and a half. So anyway, I really thought I would just jump on and do like a quick part 8 about the JonBenét Ramsey. And last night at like 5 o'clock in the morning, I did like a part 7, because I was thinking about how some people blame her brother Burke, and I just wanted to capture my thoughts before I went to sleep. So I just wanted to kind of go over that again, but to clarify a little bit, because I was like half asleep and talking not super clearly, in part because I'm trying to avoid saying certain words that I feel get struck down. So I'm going to read what I want to say, and then I'm going to not speak the words that I don't want to say, but you can read them. The autopsy said that JonBenét died from... She had been struck and had a very bad bleeding, blunt force head trauma wound. The autopsy said that she died from, and not from, they were able to determine that, and that she had defensive marks on her neck, and under her fingernails there was DNA that she was trying to get the rope off. So she was still alive while this was happening. Okay, so they were able to determine that, this wasn't what ended her. So for me, the idea that her brother Burke had caused this injury and that she was bleeding, but she wasn't DEAD, and then her parents would just finish the job, so to speak, meaning to do this to her. It's an absolute insane theory that I find completely ludicrous and baffling that anyone would even consider it as a viable option. The idea that any reasonable person would M their child because their other child had injured them is just outrageous. It's outrageous, in my opinion. So when Stephanie Harlow was on Kendall Rae's show, it was a 2 years old show, but she literally suggested that the 9-year-old had, and that John and Patsy Ramsey just assumed that JonBenét was why wouldn't they check a pulse? You're telling me that they wouldn't check a pulse, but then somehow they realized that she wasn't. So they finished it? It's just like the idea that they would actually go to the extent of doing this to cover the fact that their other child had injured her but not actually done this. So they, like, it's just so dumb to me, and it's just making me angry because Stephanie Harlow and Kendall Rae are two prominent true crime people, and there were many things that seemed like red flags and potential this happening to Burke as well as to JonBenét. I was disgusted about how Stephanie Harlow discounted this. There are many things that children exhibit as symptoms of having been this. Oh, look at that. I highlighted it. Having been this. And emotionally neglected, emotional incest. Absentee parents. I put all these comments that didn't belong there. And especially if one or both parents care more about appearances and the seemingly being perfect or the perfect family, the perfect kid, than actually deeply caring about what that person, giving a crap about what your child actually feels, what they actually need, what they're going through, what they're dealing with, taking the time to build up their self-esteem because of who they really are as a person, not how they look or how it appears. And it seems as if those particular parents, John and Patsy, were not doing those things. At least it seemed like that on the surface, and even with some deep diving, it does appear to be that way. That these parents were not giving the kids what they really needed. So obviously I'm making assumptions based on some of the facts that are out there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Kendall Rae and Stephanie Harlow did a lot more deep diving than I did, and they're privy to information that I'm not, and therefore I'm the one who's the fool and outrageous and ludicrous for not even assuming that a 9-year-old special needs child who clearly had emotional issues as well could have the force. First of all, why would he have, what's the motivation? You're going to seriously suggest that your sister taking a piece of your pineapple is going to put you in such a rage that you would violently it just doesn't make sense. There's no motivation to me there, where as far as the parents go, what's the motivation? Well, you've got an autopsy that has shown evidence of ongoing SA. And they said that it's the the evidence showed that she was SA'd close to the time of her death, as well as like scarring from previous times that had happened. And while they couldn't say how many times or how long, how many years it happened, they were able to say it was ongoing. And that's a reason right there to do it, because you want to hide that. You want to cover that up. Then, the fact that there wasn't, let's say, semen, that doesn't mean, like, I feel like Stephanie Harlow's excuse, like she said something like, well, there would have been more DNA if it had happened, even though they literally said it had happened, and maybe he got interrupted before he could finish, and, or maybe there was like, the reaction was overwhelming and it was loud, and so that's why there was tape, duct tape on her mouth. A Garrett. So, to me, beyond the abilities of a 9-year-old, I just feel like everything points to the parents. The note in the house, it was the paintbrush from the art set that belonged to Patsy. It was Patsy's pad. There was no forced entry. The exact amount of money that very few people would know of his Christmas bonus, which was very low because they were $6 million millionaires, $118,000. To me, everything points to the parents, and they got away with it. Patsy died. Thank God. CatLoveDreamingPeach.com.